everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast, a show on the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diarist and host, Anthony L. Wolf, writer, narrative designer, and senior content manager in social media. And today's episode is the last one in the little collaboration that I did with Indieverse, when there was a giveaway on the Indieverse server organized by the founder, Angelissa, and Figerox is the last of the three game developers who won a slot on the Indie Diaries podcast. So this is going to be actually a very lovely episode, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to it. There's also some nice personal news that I want to share. I'm moving to a new flat, and actually, the day that this episode goes out, I will probably be moving to the new place. So I know not a lot of people may care about that, but yeah, there's that. So exciting times ahead for me. But before we dive into the episode, I want to shout out to my amazing patrons who are Feinoko, Zagini, Fishbum Dev, and Peleg. You guys are incredible, and I love having your support every single month. So, if you guys want to support the show as well, please go to the indiediaries.com where you'll find a link to my Patreon page. But other than that, let's dive straight into the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. Today with me is actually the last guest from the Indieverse giveaway and that little Indieverse collaboration that I did with Angelissa, the founder of Indieverse, not so long ago. And his name is, well, I'll let him say his name if he wants to, but his nickname is Figerox, I would say. And I hope I pronounced that correctly, but I'll hand it over to you.
You're one of the only people who actually say that correctly.
There you go. Perfect. So I'll hand it over to you, Figerox, and just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're based, and what are you working on right now?
Well, my name is Figerox. I'm based in New Brunswick, all centrally located in my closet. I've got this nice, beautiful setup at home. It's all work from home, so I'm constantly editing, making. It's just my brain is constantly in the coding mindset. It's absolutely horrible. So my current projects, well, let's start with the one that has the most fruition to it. Detergent. That project's been in development for almost 2 years now, and when I say I put a lot of extras into it, I really mean it. It's 2 blocks of street with about 4 buildings that you actually have to go into, and the rest are like lore stuff, conversation stuff, red herrings, that sort of thing. I want my first impression into the paid game world to be a good one. It's horror.
Right. It's horror, yeah. Well, I got that. Well, I could guess that based on the kind of games that you bring on your channel, because you're also a content creator, aren't you? Or at least, you started by doing TikToks, you were telling me off the record.
I started doing TikToks, got a couple of viral videos, so felt that dopamine rush right there, and like, I want that. And ever since then, I've just been uploading, and I enjoy it, which a lot of people, unfortunately, can't say.
Yeah, it's true. Some people see content creation as a job rather than something fun that they can do, fun. And yeah, it can be very fun. I agree, and as a content creator, I can relate. So yeah, but with these episodes, I always like to open with a little bit of an icebreaker, which is not just the introductions themselves. I always like to ask, if you could be any game's character for a day, who would you be and why?
I know I've been asked this. I've been asked this, and I know the answer. Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. Resident Evil, okay. 2, not 4 or 6, because I don't know. I just Resident Evil 2 was one of the first games I ever played as a little youngin. I should not have played it at 5 years old.
Probably not, but
it burnt into my brain, and I've loved horror ever since.
Yeah. Well, that's a great answer, and Leon is badass and also has charisma, especially perfect. So amazing answer there. And well, you partly answered this question already, but like I always like to start from the beginning, because these episodes are always about the stories of the people that come onto the show, and I always like to start from the beginning. So as a child, you mentioned that Resident Evil 2 was one of the first games that you played as a kid. What other games do you remember? Like, and even then, like even before Resident Evil 2, What's your earliest memory that has to do with video games, you say?
My earliest memory, probably, I can't remember if I was 3 or 4, but I was like, I'm positive I was still in diapers. Like, this is like one of those half memories that you're not sure
Yeah.
of. It was
Okay.
Fighting Force 64 for the N64.
Right. Okay.
My sister ended up actually getting an N64 in that game and a couple of other games for Christmas, but that was the game I was playing. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, to me as a kid, it was not like creepy scary, but like there were all these like big guys coming at you like really fast, and you had limited health, and like it was small areas. So like to me as a kid, that was creepy enough. But then my now this might get a little real for a second. My parents split, and when I was at my
Okay.
dad's house, he was working all the time, and my brother was at my dad's, my sister was at my mom's. So when I was at my dad's house, my brother had all these like the PlayStation, and my sister had Nintendo. So when I was at my dad's house, my older brother, who was like 16, 17, had all these M for mature games. And he'd be like, yeah, you can play them. They're just games. And that's how I see them. They're just games. So why be scared? But, oh gosh, tell that to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, no, definitely. Wow. Yeah,
I'll admit I
that's.
had nightmares well, I still have nightmares, which they're unexplainable. But I mean, they're not scary. I wake up and I'm like, that was cool.
Well, maybe thanks to your love for horror, that kind of helps. But yeah.
But the first real scare that I got, you're going to be like, why? Siphon Filter for PlayStation 1.
Ooh, okay.
You ever played that?
I think I have, but like it was so long ago, I don't remember much. So yeah.
The second level had these trains in it, and it was set on a kind of like a semi-random timer. And for some reason, those trains, one of the main objectives was on the train track, and you had to cross like 3 or 4 different train tracks. But in order to get to the spot you were supposed to get, you'd had to like zigzag in a couple areas. And those trains, man, like scary.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, I mean, horror is not just jump scares and monsters, it's also tension and a lot of other things. And I guess that worked for you. Like you were very tense, and it was scary for a kid to just have to go through that kind of stress, I suppose. Any other games you remember playing growing up and you think, yeah?
Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell.
Oh, yes.
Those were also kind of leaning on horror and tension, due to the whole sneaking aspect. Like again, as a kid, like those games scared the crap out of me.
I mean, Psycho Mantis is pretty scary.
Oh, sorry, Siphon Filter, but Psycho Mantis on Metal Gear Solid. Oh, jeez. Oh, now I see what you said there.
Yeah.
My fault.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I remember seeing my uncle play Metal Gear Solid, and I was like, yeah, no, this seems cool, but I don't really understand it. And then when I grew older, I started playing, and I was like, oh my god, this is a great game. And then as I grew even older, I started understanding all the political references and all of that, and I love that saga to bits.
I think the last time I actually played like 1 to 3 and also up to Peace Walker, high school. So like I could freshly replay those and be surprised on everything.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, no, there's loads there to be surprised about. Yeah. Right. Well, and I suppose, I mean, these games that you played, I mean, they are definitely having an influence on the kind of stuff that you're developing now, aren't they? Like all the kind of tension and whatnot. Yeah.
I like the whole sneaking and horror thing, and I'm trying. I do like Puppet Combo, Chillis Art, Fears to Fathom. Like those were my big inspirers for starting on game dev.
Yeah, and about that actually, that's there's always, I think, that magical moment, I suppose, when you realize that you don't want to just play games, you want to make them. And what was that one for you? Like, was there some sort of aha moment?
In high school, actually, RPG Maker XP. I got it on sale for like $10. I worked my butt off for one of those $25 online Visa card things, and I bought it, and I made absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
I learned RPG Maker for 6 years straight, or I thought I was learning RPG Maker
Mm-hmm.
for like 6 years straight. But then when I went into Unity for a couple of months, and then I went back to RPG Maker, it was like a whole other world. Like I basically scrapped my whole project,
Uh-huh.
started from scratch,
Yeah.
and now I'm like triple the length of being into
Mm.
my 2D game than I am. And
Mm-hmm.
don't even get me started on the graphics. There's like 700 to 800 tile pictures I've drawn. Oh my
Oh
god.
my God, yeah. Well, it's interesting that you moved from RPG Maker to Unity, and that was like so long ago when Unity's 2D wasn't still that. I mean, Unity fakes 2D until recently. I think they introduced a
I,
nice 2D
I
render, but like,
don't understand Unity 2D.
yeah, okay, there you go. So, perfect. But I remember one thing about RPG Maker. It was around the time that To the Moon came out, and a lot of
Yes,
people realized
exactly.
they could, yeah, and a lot of people realized that they could make like games that were super narrative and super horror intense and weird with very
The
little.
Witch's House
Yeah,
is
that one
one of the
too.
inspirers back in the day.
Lisa, I think as well. There was
That's
that
one I
game
never
too.
actually saw.
Uh-huh. And do you remember that wave? Did you live through it? Were you developing through it? Like, did
Uh,
you develop as something that then you released during that
I
wave?
tried. I'll admit, I
Okay.
really, really tried.
All right.
But again, I'll get a little real here. Um, so at that time, I was like half living with my mom, half living with my
Mm,
girlfriend, and like switching kind of weekly. And then I was in school, and
mm,
then college, and then I got a family. And then when I started actually having a family with my now lovely wife,
mm-hmm.
and having a daughter and stuff, now that I'm actually like sitting here, I have the time to do it. And I've been consecutively learning for the last couple of years.
Right.
And if I could give 10 years ago me a smack and be like, actually learn, bro, I definitely would.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a question I'm going to ask you later on. But yeah, that's interesting that you brought it up. So well, we're getting closer to the present, of course. But I'm curious about the last 2 years. You mentioned that this project that you're working on has been in development for the last 2 years. I suppose you learned a lot during this time, as you
Yes,
mentioned. And is there a particular challenge or development trauma that left a mark on you? Something that you want to share for other
absolutely.
devs?
I think about it every single night. My
There you go.
random map generator.
Okay.
I worked on that for almost a month straight. And the closest I got was taking two rooms and touching them together randomly,
Uh huh.
and like there was this random glitch that I couldn't figure out where sometimes they would go the opposite direction of what I wanted. And
Oh.
I asked ChatGPT as well. I asked like everybody. No one could figure out why it was randomly choosing the other direction.
Wow.
And I'm
And
just like, screw this. And I scrapped that project and went back to my main project.
okay, right, yeah. So yeah, you never figured out why it was doing that in the end.
No. And
Okay.
I think I'm just gonna forget about it, and in like a year or two I'll try again.
Yeah, okay. Maybe at that point you'll see what happened. Maybe it wasn't your fault either. It could have been the engine as well. Some weird bug or something.
I did learn that my computer unfortunately has only about 3 hours of Unity time before I have to reset it.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah, so that might have contributed. Um. So well, yeah. I mean, you mentioned you've been working. In fact, you've been working on a project for the past 2 years. Are you any close to a release date? Are you any close to finishing it, or even early access? I don't know.
So let's see. I have the entire map done, and I'm just finishing up the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working this school part is like what's been taking up my time for almost a year now. I've been making a 2-story school with like an entirely customly built building. Like I've been starting on the foundation, like I've been doing the layout and like actually making it make sense and make it look like a real school with like balconies and like actual light systems and like following where the wiring would be and like figuring it out because I showed a couple of other game devs the project, and I was like, I was telling them, all right, guys, you look at this library. You see all those books?
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of those books are custom placed, and they're
God.
like, you fucking didn't. And I'm like, you're goddamn right I did.
Oh God, yeah, no, that sounds like
So
you put a lot of effort into that, a lot of time too.
This first paid project, I want it to be a good first impression. I release game jam projects like on my main page once in a while to get people into what I can do and learn. And by the time I release this big one, I would like a little bit of followers. Right now I'm at about 30, which I mean slowly every time I release a game it goes up by about 5 or 6.
Oh,
I've deleted more than I've uploaded.
All right. Well, that's a good point actually, because I know that you have a Discord server where you do regular game jams. So
Yes.
what kind of game jams do you do for other people who might be interested?
Well, actually, I started on Farm Jam. That gathered about 300 people in, and then after the game jam or after the Farm Jam, I have a schedule now, so I'll do 2 Farm Jams a year. The first jam will be a normal farm jam to start the year off, and the second jam is a DLC or a extras jam for the farm jam. It's March and August. So the August jam is so that anybody who has submitted in my jams before can go back, or even one of their own projects, they can upload a fresh copy with these new restrictions and themes and upload limits. So like, for example, my 2D project that I was talking about, I've technically released it into 2 of my own jams, specifically updating only things that have to do with the jam.
Okay.
Like this jam that I'm currently on right now is the Tackle Box Fishing Jam. So I'm probably not gonna upload what I have yet, but I've been spending the last week or so fixing and editing my fishing portion of my 2D game, Hazel Springs. That's a whole other.
Well, among the games that I've seen on your itch page, there's one called Eldritch Moon, which I found was really, really interesting as a title, because being a Lovecraft fan, I suppose there's a new weird reference over there, isn't there?
Yes.
Nice.
So Eldritch Moon is one of 2 of my main projects. I have a main 2D project and a main 3D project, both of them being horror. So Eldritch Moon, obviously you can tell it's going to be like a Harvest Moon type game.
Yeah.
I've got all the farming. I've got my character relationships done. I just finished a gifting system, which I'm still working on, but I did it myself, and I'm so like I'm happy with myself on that one. It took months to figure out. Let's see. I've got secret bosses. I've got 5 characters fully fleshed out. I plan to have about a dozen, but I'm only kind of have marginal ideas on them so far. But I'm doing 1 character at a time, so I don't overwhelm myself.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you actually about because of course you've got your main 2D and your main 3D project, but you also develop quite a few jam games. Like, is there one of those that you would like to one day to maybe pick up and expand at some point?
Yes. SCP-87B. I actually just deleted it 2 days ago off of my itch page because I have a new version that I'm going to be uploading here soon. That just the game jam version paled in comparison, and frankly, I just don't want that version to be on the internet anymore.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So instead of secure, crawl, contain, protect, it's going to be secure, crawl, protect. It's going to be a 1990s version of SCP-87B. You know those old games where it's the WASD and you move 1 square forward and then Q and E to rotate 90 degrees? I'm making SCP-87B in that style, and I'm trying to use the game's mechanics against you or for you. For example, I have an enemy that moves towards you at a constant rate. So technically, you can either back way up really, really, really fast and get the heck out of there, or as he's coming at you, you can use the forward command to go forward 1 square and completely skip their kill box.
Oh, right, okay.
So using the game mechanics to get past the enemy.
Right, yeah, no, that's sounds really cool. So basically you're juggling a lot of little projects at once, and I suppose that's super fun because you're learning a lot of things at the same time. Is it also pretty heavy in terms of a workload? Or you just have a lot of fun?
Man. ADHD.
There you go. Okay. Perfect. Now we got my answer there. Well, at this point, I suppose, if you could go back, we've been developing. I forgot the name because, I didn't forget the name, but I didn't understand how it was spelled. The game that you've been developing for 2 years.
Detergent.
Detergent. There you go. So, if you could go back, is there anything that you would change about how you developed it over the past 2 years?
I would tell myself to write the story in full first, because there's one area in the story that I'm kind of blanking on, but I have the rest of the story done. So in between the school and actually finding the killer, there's a little area in there that I'm not sure exactly how to proceed with. Okay. And that part's been just pissing me off, because I just can't figure out how to get them to be like, oh, this is where the killer is, and why would I do that?
Well, I guess we are very close to. Well, we actually got to the core of the episode, which is the question that I love to ask everybody. And for you, it is no different. Why are you a game developer? What is it that drives you forward?
I want people to record their reactions and feel something to my games.
Okay.
I want that, like, what the hell did I just play feeling? And I want that, like, I want to have the feeling of giving to the audience and them appreciating it. And I guess the old show your craft, I guess. I want to be like the big ones, like Puppet Combo and Chilisar and Fears to Fathom. I think I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
They're definitely my big inspirers.
Well, I know what you mean, because having written a short story for a very special person just recently, and who's my best friend, and having seen her record her reaction as she was reading the ending, I know exactly what you mean and what makes things special when people enjoy your kind of creation, your kind of works, especially if they're important people. But anyone enjoying your work is going to make you proud, I'm sure. So yeah, that's a great thing too. It's a great answer, in my opinion. And what the flip side of that, of course, I know we got real in a few places here. It's the time to get real again, I suppose. What drives you backwards? What do you think is your biggest struggle as an indie developer?
Not being confident in my own sources and always trying to change things and make them better and better, and then breaking them.
All right, okay. So that sets you back quite a bit, I suppose. Yeah.
I always am trying to improve on my own code, and it's very annoying.
I suppose maybe sometimes you feel also discouraged as a dev because of that. So how do you cope with that kind of feeling?
I'll be honest, probably not the best way. I immediately close the project and then go work on something else.
Well, no, I mean, it's one way. I mean, just try to be distracted by something else. That works.
Usually my go-to is work on a project for a day, skip to another project on the second day, and then different on the third day. Or if I'm like doing a lot of progress on something and like I know I'm on a roll, I'm not gonna change the course until it's finished. I have an enemy AI that now can hear you, see you, and know if you're behind them. But only after a delay. That took probably 3 weeks to figure out. But now I have a base that I can just turn those things on and off and make different enemy types and like minorly edit it. Speaking of the whole scripting thing, every script I make is designed to be drag and dropped into any project and work.
Nice. Right. Yeah, that's a bit basically modular in a way.
Yes. I can give you my entire script folder. Well, like 90% of it is not drag and droppable, and the other 10% is broken.
All right. Right. Yeah. Well, no, that's an interesting way to work. At least you can reuse a lot of code. It's very efficient.
You'll even notice on my on my itch page, my first game, The Delve, SCP-87B, all the same scripts.
Right. Okay.
Plus other scripts I've learned in that game process in that game jam.
Nice. Okay. Well, that is very efficient. It's something really smart to do, actually. So, yeah. Well, I guess we're almost near the end. We're almost at the end. So I just have two more questions for you, which might be a little bit fun to answer. So number one is something that you kind of answered already, and it is: imagine writing a letter to yourself, but 10 years younger. What would that letter say?
That's interesting that you said that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 10 years ago, I would tell me to start writing things down,
Mm-hmm.
bookmark things, and start organizing your damn folders.
Okay.
I went back to my detergent project after about a year, or after about a year and a half. This was probably about a 3-month break into it because I needed a break from it. It was pissing me off.
Okay.
I did a game jam or two, did some 2D art, worked on some other stuff, and went back to it and was disgusted with my own disorganization. I spent probably 3 to 4 hours just slowly dragging one piece at a time and like organizing every file folder. And now I can click on it and actually read it.
Well, that would have helped you a lot, I suppose, over the past 10 years.
Oh, yeah. I only learned to organize maybe a year ago.
Oh, never too late to start. At least the next 10 years will be better, I suppose. So, yeah. And lastly, this should be very fun. If you had unlimited budget and time, what game would you create? Or games, as you like to make multiple at once.
I would create a completely open world game. Not completely. Like maybe a couple of city blocks, like a nice big size.
Like an open map, okay.
Where there is 5 to 6 different stories that you can partake in, and it's all horror related. Maybe one goofy one there, but they're all like full narratives, and they all intersect with each other. But it's up to the player to figure out what things to do, in what order, and there's also a time limit or like a day system. So the further along you progress in the game, other things happen in the game world. If I had unlimited budget, this would be like a 10 to 20 hour epic, and it would just be like maximum lighting power. It would be set at dark. Honestly, I've thought about that one for a while. You'd be like an investigator or something like that.
It feels very sandboxy, and it feels very much like some scenarios. I don't know if you play Call of Cthulhu, for example, the tabletop
yes,
RPG.
I have played it.
There you go. And there are some scenarios out there for that game that are very sandboxy, and they kind of remind me of this. Like there are different strands, different stories, and it's entirely up to the player how to go about them and how to solve them. So very investigator-like, very detective-like. So yeah, that reminds me of that.
And I would add the ability, a good AI to respond to you or any question, or almost any question, or have like a list of like 20 questions that you can pick from.
Perfect. Well, we would need some sort of a custom language model for this. That's probably a lot of work.
I looked into making a custom language model once a while back for Resident Evil editing. Oh my!
Yeah, no, I know it takes a lot of resources, a lot of people, and a lot of time because you have to train the data set and whatnot. That's the thing.
None of the data sets currently even know what hex editing is.
There you go.
Sorry, it knows what it is, but it doesn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that sounds like it might be a pain. But anyway, Figerox, it's been lovely chatting to you, and it was a very quick episode. I really enjoyed it. We're now at the end, so it's time for some parting words. So where can other people find you? And if they do, what is the best way to support you right now?
The best way to get a hold of me would probably be leaving a comment on my YouTube channel or leaving a comment on one of my itch games. It's not Figerox on itch, it is Figerox Studios.
Okay.
Right now I only have 4 things available. It used to be about 8, but I deleted a couple of them. But they will be being re-uploaded with better gameplay. I have a couple of projects that I've deleted off, and I'm like, I'd like to build up a little more, then re-release them as like short 20-minute games.
Right, okay. So a little bit more polished. Okay, that's perfect. And of course, I will put all of these links in the description of the episode so that people can easily find you and support you. And yeah, well, what can I say? It's been a pleasure talking to you, Figerox. You have a lot of enthusiasm and passion for horror, which is something that I can share and that I can relate with. And yeah, I mean, it's best of luck with all of your projects. What can I say?
Well, thank you very much. I hopefully get something viral or semi-viral in the next year. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you. All right, everybody, and that's a wrap on another great episode of the Indie Diarist podcast with Figerox, an amazing guest from the Indieverse community. I loved speaking to you about all things horror. I loved speaking to you about the story of your game and everything that you're trying to do to just get your project to life and bring your project to life. That was incredibly fascinating. Thank you so much. And you guys, if you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the show, listeners, or leave a rating, 5 stars. That always helps. And remember that if you want to support the show in any way, you can go to, well, the episode's description, where you can find links to support the show, but also to support Figerox himself. And at the same time, you can also go to theindiediarist.com, where you can find links to my Patreon page, my Coffee page. Remember, the show is entirely listener supported, so anything that you can do to help will make a huge difference. Other than that, if you're an indie game developer yourself, please get in touch, because I would love to tell your story to my affectionate listeners who are always hungry to meet new people from the indie game development community. And it could be just you, it could be another person, it could be a full studio. If you want to be featured onto the show, so long as your story is interesting, I will always find a spot for you. But other than that, I guess I will speak to you next time for the next episode of the Indie Diarist.